Newly disabled. Adjusting to a sudden disability or illness is one of the most traumatizing experiences a person can go through. Watch as I talk about my personal struggle adapting to my disability and learn ways of dealing with becoming newly disabled. Hello, welcome to my so-called disabled life, where I not only talk about my life and experiences as a disabled woman, but speak the truth about disability and what it means to live as a disabled person. I am your host, Chaundra McGill, a motivational speaker and life coach for the disabled. Today, we will be talking about coping with becoming disabled. When I first became disabled, I was in denial. Even though this catastrophic event happened in my life, for some reason, I didn't think my lifestyle would change. I figured I would need a few months to recoup and my life will return to normal. It never occurred to me that my life changed forever. I was 31 when I had my brain aneurysm requiring brain surgery, and that resulted in a stroke on the operating table. At that point, I had been working for 20 years. I had started helping out the paper lady at 11. That was my first job. And I had been working for 20 years. Working was all I knew how to do. Even though I was placed on long-term disability at my job, I figured it would be a matter of time before I would be back. And even though I moved out of my third floor walk-up apartment because I couldn't access it in a wheelchair, I figured I'd just get another place. Even though I was dumped by my boyfriend a month after my surgery, as devastating as it was, I knew another man would come along. And despite losing two of my best girlfriends, I had just leaned on the friends who were still there, and I decided to make new friends. I knew that I would be physically impaired forever, but I'd be close to normal. But as my recovery was going a lot slower than I originally thought and the severity of my illness sank in, I became angry. I became angry that I was not the same. I was angry that every facet of my life had been affected by my illness. I was just angry at the world. I just remember yelling at everyone, yelling at everything, and yelling at myself. I was angry that I could not do the things I used to do. I was angry that my mind no longer matched my body. Then I went through a phase of embarrassment. I was embarrassed that I no longer looked the same. My stroke robbed me of my smile. I no longer felt pretty. I even tried to downplay my disability. I would not be upfront with the deficits of my disability, especially while dating. I figured, why would somebody want me? I felt less than. I would try to mask my balance issues while walking. I would tell a guy I like PDA, so hold my hand. He didn't know it was because my coordination was bad, or I would just say I was clumsy. I would hide the fact that I was deaf in my right ear. But there was one day when I knew I could not hide my disability. He bluntly asked me, "What's wrong with your face?" When I told him my medical ordeal, he was visibly uncomfortable. Needless to say, I never heard from him again. Then I went through a phase where I was severely depressed. I talked about this topic in the video, My Battle with Depression. I felt worthless. I was sad. I felt hopeless. I was suicidal. I was constantly questioning, why me? Or where would my life be if I never got sick? I didn't realize that I was mourning the person I used to be. I missed my old self. What was really occurring was me going through the grieving process. When you become disabled, you are experiencing a loss. You have lost who you used to be. You lost life as you knew it. The hardest thing I ever had to do was arrive to the point of acceptance. The point where I no longer asked, why me? And I'm now asking, why not me? You have to arrive to a point where you can now embrace your disabilities. You have to accept your new normal. This is a hard road to travel, and it will be different for everyone. But here are a few tips to adjusting to becoming disabled. Recognize that it is a long road. I'm sure in your physical recovery, doctors and physical therapists have told you it's a marathon, not a sprint. This applies to you emotionally as well. You have spent a significant amount of time being non-disabled. Accepting your disability will not happen overnight. Get psychotherapy. My neurosurgeon was the first one to recommend this to me. Therapy will help you process the stages of grief you will experience: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. I was in therapy for 2.5 years. It may not take you as long as it did for me because I was also dealing with mental illness issues, depression, and anxiety. Also realize that your mobility devices are not confining, but liberating. As much as it may seem like a hassle, ask yourself, what would you be able to do without your wheelchair or walker or cane? The answer is likely nothing. It helps you get out and experience the world, and most importantly, be safe. Make disabled friends. It not only helps you stave off the loneliness that 40% of disabled people feel, but also you have people who you can relate to, who can relate to your experiences. One way of doing this is by taking advantage of hospital-sponsored programs and support groups. Also, rely on and don't resent your caretakers. They are there to help. I know it is a hard adjustment from being completely independent to now relying on others, but recognize they are there for your well-being. It was hard for me to rely on my mother to bathe me and to drive me everywhere. But at the end of the day, she was there to help and keep me safe. I want to leave you with the simple words of George Bernard Shaw. Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Be sure to tune in next time as we talk about traumatic brain injuries. Join the My So-Called Disabled Facebook group to engage in lively discussions about disability. If you are enjoying this video, then join the family by subscribing to the channel and hit the notification bell. Thank you for watching.